Welcome back to the tutorial series on Catatumbo. My name is Sai Pulla Bhutla. I am the author of Catatumbo. In the last session, part 5, we have discussed about inheritance in your model classes or entities. And specifically, we discussed about one annotation mapped superclass, which allows persisting of state from the superclasses, and we wrote some sample code. In this session, we're going to discuss how to persist collections. I'm just referring to collections as these are the three main things: list, sets, and maps. So the Google Cloud Datastore does allow uh, persisting array properties as well as embedded objects. So Catatumbo framework makes it very easy to map these collections to the data store and vice versa. So I'm going to show you how to persist collections of basic data types. Let's say if you just want to persist a list of strings or list of numbers, that's pretty easy to do. You could also persist a collection of embedded objects. So let's go ahead and switch to Eclipse and start writing some code. So we're gonna just enhance our employee entity to and keep on adding new features. So let's first take a look at how we can persist a list of strings. For that, I'm going to just use let's create a new field in our employee class called let's use list and list of strings. Let's just call it skills for now. So we're just going to store the skills of each employee, and let's go ahead and create the getter methods and setter methods for skills. I'm going to regenerate our toString method. That way we are printing the skills also. All right, now let's switch back to our app and set some skills on this employee. So we need a list of skills now. So let's just create skills. You can, in this example, I'm just using an array list or base list. Actually, the field type in employee is in this case, but you can also change it to any specific subclass or implementation of list. For example, if you want to use a linked list, you can definitely declare your field to be linked list, and the framework will take care of it as well. So I'm going to just add a couple of skills to this employee. All right, let's those two should be good. Let's go back to our data store and clean up the data we have. And now let's go ahead and run our app. So here are the skills stored as an array or list, and there are two skills for this employee. Let's go ahead and check our data store now. So we have our first name, last name, and there are skills. So Java and Cloud Datastore. So there is really not much you have to do other than creating your model class appropriately to store or persist collections. So instead, if you want to use a set instead of a list, because you don't want to, you want to stop storing duplicate skills, for example. Then it's probably a good idea to change it to a set. So let's go ahead and change the skills to a set now. And let's fix the app also to be a set of strings now. So I'm just going to use the hash set, and let's go ahead and delete this and rerun our app. And there is absolutely really no difference between what your model class uses, whether it's a list or set. It just gets persisted and mapped back to your model entity when you read this record. Now you could also do the same thing with maps. So basically, if you want to, let's say, store some arbitrary properties, like key value pairs that you don't know ahead of time, to make them part of your model, you could definitely do so. Uh, for example, let's say you want to store, item attributes such as available colors, or size, or whatever else you want to. You can definitely store them as a map. Um, Now, the collections are not only limited to like basic data types like integers, strings, or floating points, but you can also persist complex objects. So let's say we have a complex object called phone number, um, and you want to store several phone numbers for this employee. You can definitely do so. So I'm going to just demonstrate how that that's going to work. So let's go ahead and create a new class called phone. So this is going to be, for the sake of, let's make country code as one field, and subscriber number. Basically, I'm just going to, other than the country code, everything becomes the subscriber number in this particular model. Let's go ahead and generate the getters and setters. And a toString. Okay, let's say we have this phone, and we want to store a list of phones or map of phones within the employee object. So we already saw how to persist list and set. So let's use a map now for storing the phone numbers. So we want to, all maps must have a key type of string, and we want to store phone numbers in this map. So I'm just going to call it phones. Now let's go ahead and add a getter method as well as setter method for the phones. And I'm just going to redo the toString also. Okay, now we have our employee entity updated to store a map of phone numbers. So let's go ahead and add some phone numbers to this employee. Now let's go back to our phone and add a new constructor also, so we could easily create a new phone instance. So now we're back into our app and we're just going to say one is the country code and subscriber number is 222-333-4444. Now let's also do work and sell. We're going to just change the last digit now. And we can also add cell 2 if we want to, or whatever you want to call it, really doesn't matter. Now let's set this phone object on the employee. So emp.set phones is phones. All right, let's go back to the cloud data store and delete the current data we have. Now let's go ahead and run our app. As you can notice, it says unsupported type phone. Now, in order to store collections of complex objects, you need to mark your complex object as embeddable. Just like how you cannot embed any object into an entity, the same thing applies to uh, lists and maps also. So let's make this an embeddable. And now let's run it again. Okay, so now we need to follow the rules for embeddable. So every embeddable must have a no-arg constructor, which is what we are missing. So let's just create one. And we're good now. Let's go ahead and run now. Okay, so we were able to successfully persist the employee, and I'm just going to, so here are our phones attribute with various phone numbers. Let's go ahead and check the data store to make sure we got the data. So this is how a map of complex object is stored. So you have the name and then another object with country code, subscriber number, then work phone, then cell 2, and then home. So everything is pretty automatic. You don't have to do a whole lot. Again, you can of course control whether the name of the property that you want to use. For example, instead of phones, you can say contact numbers for the property name, and you can also indicate if the property should be indexed or not. So the standard rules apply, that anything that you could do on a property, you could also annotate these collection properties in the same way. That's pretty much it about collections. With that, I'm going to conclude this session. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next session.